Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you are doing well. Today, going to take you through a bat rep between the factions of Shasvastii, that combined army sectorial, and Bakunin, the nomad sectorial that you all know and love. And it will be on the mission Finish Line, which is probably my most popular custom mission. It has been played a lot in my leagues. You guys know it and understand it quite well at this point. By the way, we're still sort of waiting for Corvus Belli to come out with the next ITS season pack. Once we do, I'll have a look at it, maybe run some of those missions in the upcoming league, which probably will be announced right after they come out with a pack. I did notice yesterday they did bring out some new sectorials, which is good. They've done that already, so that they'll be ready for you guys to play if you want to play Neo Terra or Steel Phalanx or whatever in the next VaulSC TTS league. For now, though, we are going to focus on what we've got: Shasvastii versus Bakunin on Finish Line. And although I don't cover all of my live games on YouTube, I wanted to pick this one because it does help me commentate on a few of the things I've noticed about N4 and about these factions and about this mission. So why don't we just dive into it and have a talk about the game. I know you guys like to look at lists, so let's just go and look at what we're running this time. I'll start with my list, which is the Shasvastii list. This is the first time for me playing Shasvastii in N4. Didn't particularly like the look of them. I had a lot of trouble writing lists, but this list is a continuation of my experimentation with lots of camo markers in N4, and the thinking behind this is that in N4, hacking is very, very strong, very, very useful, very, very prevalent, and almost ubiquitous now. But if you put a lot of your important stuff in marker state, it's very hard for your opponent to get to grips with you and actually hack your stuff. Secondarily, Finish Line is a mission which you can easily win by going first or second. It's a really more emphasis on skill and position, which is a good thing about the mission. But all in all, it does award you 2 points for controlling the central objective at the end of the game. And for that reason, I like to go second if possible. And also, in a lot of Corvus Belli missions, it's way easier to win going second. So that's the kind of game plan I try to strategize for and plan and build lists around a lot of the time. Now, to sacrifice, we've actually dropped any sort of tags, so no Sphinx in this, and no big Shishkin or heavy infantry Guilos or anything. This is a list which, unfortunately, only sees a lot of, skirmishing light infantry to carry the day. As you can see, there's 3 Shroudeds, a Caliban. What do we do if we're taking first turn? If we're forced to take first turn? That will usually only happen if the opponent specifically chooses second turn after winning the roll, which is something I'm going to be doing all of the time unless I'm, not given the option. But if I have to go first, the Specular Killer with Mine Layer is there to hopefully wreak a little bit of havoc. I like this profile in this context because if you have to go first, placing the mine next to something that it can detonate on or near to it, and then the Specular Killer can move around and start shooting, allows you to at least get a little bit of damage done in your initial turn, and then hopefully swamp the midfield with your markers and make it hard for them to score in that final turn of the game. There's a couple of Tiger creatures in there as well to help harass. But really, if the Specular gets nothing done, the Tigers get nothing done, this could be a bit of a hard road for first turn play. Luckily, I don't encounter too many people who specifically take second turn like I do, and when I do, usually there's some way at least to try and leverage that to win. So we've got the double shrouded hacker and of course the T-drone, just in case somebody walks within spotlight range. You've got the T-drone to shoot. If you can't get any spotlights off, the T-drone is kind of useful in the Link team because he's got the flash pulse as well, and of course just acts as a relatively cheap fifth member. Normally I'd run Shishkin in this Link team, but without the old version of Fatality Level 2, I feel like I can save the points and invest in more camo markers. There's still an HMG there just because sometimes you're in a situation where you just simply have to remove the Warcore and the Flash Pulse spots and the cheap heavy weapon in the Link team, or just the solo NIST sniper or whatever it might be, and having a 5-burst gun is the only way to really do it. But really, this list is all about denial. It's about having stuff in marker state, and we'll talk a bit more about it during the game, but this is my theory about how you might try and play a passive reactive game to win a lot of these ITS missions. Caliban out in the midfield to kill things close combat, you do need that. Slave Drone to repair the T-Drone, and Malignos to help deal with enemy hackers, but also that surprise drop. The Malignos is also doubly important because it makes your opponent think that you have a Noctifer when you don't, because they find it hard to count up all of the SWCs that you have under your markers. The Specular Killer in this case is 1.5, but for all they know it might only be 1 if they don't know that you've dropped a mine next to your other camo markers. We've got another mine layer and 2 hackers. For all they know, these could be forward observers. So it's entirely possible for this, this hidden slot to be a Noctifer, and that causes your opponent to sometimes watch out a little bit. Going over to my opponent's list, this is not the actual list that he ran. It's only an approximation of it from memory. I've included a moderator Spitfire in there. I don't think he actually had one. I think the points are sort of spread around some other things. I do know that he is running a Chimera with 3 Pupniks, a Riot Girl missile launcher. That's definitely in there. There is a Riot Girl with boarding shotgun Tinbot. We did see that in the game. Prowler with Spitfire, I believe, and then a few different Zeros, Zoe and Pywell from extra hacking, and of course the Vertigo's on for the missiles once you've spotlighted them. That combos well with the Zero that has the deployable repeater. You move out, you put the repeater down, you spotlight them, then you missile them. So, pretty solid list. This is an opponent who takes after what I do and seems to copy a lot of my strategies, which is fair enough. It's very flattering. Maybe that says that my strategies are good, maybe it doesn't. But anyway, this is the kind of style that I approve of and recommend for people. Okay, now let's get into the game. Before we talk about the actual play, can we please take a minute to appreciate our buddy Matt for his effort on this terrain? I think he's done a really good job. He's basically taken some time to build these terrain pieces out of polystyrene and cardboard and balsa wood, I believe it is, and just use normal spray cans to paint them up. It's taken him quite a while, but it looks unique, it looks original, and the terrain is fairly practical for Infinity, so gets the thumbs up from VaulSC right across the board, and looks really good, especially with the help of my my camera filters and so forth. So props to him for adding this terrain to our little pool in the local community. Now, he wins the role, decides to take the table side that he wants. Even though I'm having to deploy first, I'm taking second turn because that is the strat, that is what we're doing. So let's run through where everything is. I've also invested in some new camo markers from the lovely Battle Kiwi range, so we're testing them out. So, from right to left, I have a Forward Observer Seed Soldier, a regular Seed Soldier without the Specialist upgrade. This is the Caliban. His Slave Drone is over here to help out the T-Drone. Then you have Tiger Creature number 1. There is a Shrouded Hacker on top of the roof, Shrouded Hacker on top of the roof here, and the idea is just to create a couple of zones where we're expecting people to come. Obviously, Finish Line is a mission where you've got to get your data tracker to the enemy deployment zone. Hopefully we can hack them or at least spotlight them on the way through. The Specular Killer is hanging out back here because I'm not going first. I don't want to just put it in front of him for the Nomads to kill. So the Specular is also dropping a mine inside this little building because it has one of these little entry ports through to the other side down the bottom of it. So that's what's going on there. Alright, so through the middle, this is my link team right at the back. This Caliban Spitfire is proxying as it's representing a Nox HMG. The Lieutenant's at the back, 2 plebs up the front. T-Drone is prone. I don't want to leave it standing watching the table because he may then just come at me with something which can kill it right off the bat. I don't really want that. I will stand this guy up in later turns or just simply use him for the guided missile fire. Again, there's the Specular Killer, and that little marker you're seeing, this little doorway, that is the mine deployed by the Specular Killer. On the left-hand side, we have the Shrouded Mine Layer with the mine on the extreme left, another Tiger Creature to go around the left-hand flank like that. That's the plan for him. And that is about it for the Shasvastii. Over to my opponent, actually sorry, not over to my opponent, just another look at the top here where both Shroudeds are prone on top of the building. The only way for my opponent to really get to them is to come up and try and discover them from the top here or use a sensor. Unfortunately, I don't really want to reveal if I know he's got a lot of zero killer hackers, but the idea is just to use these guys to lie in wait and really spring the trap only when I need to. There is the designated target. You gain 1 objective point in this mission for killing it. It's on the right-hand side of the battlefield. If I just zoom all the way back here. So the designated target for me is way over on the left-hand side here, and then my link team's on this side, so you guys can roughly see where that is. Okay, so my opponent now deploying his Bakunin. This is from right to left. This is the right-hand side of his deployment zone here. I believe that's a moderator, I believe that's a moderator, I believe that's a moderator, and I believe that is a moderator, I think. That's a 4-man link team. Right goal missile launcher standing up, of course. Seems like a no-brainer in Bakunin at the moment to run one of these in the moderator link team. Very points efficient and a very efficient unit overall. There's the right girl boarding shotgun who's not part of the link team, who will become the data tracker later. Then you've got Zoe and Pywell. Pywell is out in the midfield, ready to carry its sensor out into the center. And there's, I believe, a zero of some kind in the building. This is a look at the midfield. So we just saw the right girl and moderator link team who are on that side. Here is his Vertigo Zond. That is Pywell there. This is a zero killer hacker on top of the building. This, I believe, is just a mine being laid by the zero mine, which is in that building. There is a zero with a deployable repeater over here, and that's a look at the central deployment for Bakunin. There's a designated target on the right-hand side of his deployment zone, and then in this building here next to the Vertigo Zond, you've got the Dactari, and then you've got Zoe right here, and the Vertigo Zond. In this building, that's where we're going to see the Überfall Commando team deployed as a reserve placement. So there's a look at the zero mine layer nearby to his designated target, and then Pywell over on the left there. So this is right-hand side of this photo is my deployment zone, left-hand side is his deployment zone looking from side on. This miniature here is actually a Malignos deployed in hidden deployment. This is a photograph for verification purposes of where it actually is. The idea being that if this Specular Killer gets taken out during the game, with me having last turn, I can simply reveal him, move him over there, and just touch the central objective to gain 2 objective points very easily and conserve, of course, the points of this Malignos. The objective over here is one of the panoplies. You could get a bonus point for having more stuff gained from the panoplies over the course of the game once the game ends. Data tracker, I'm just slamming up that lieutenant. I just want him to survive. There's very little chance of him walking across the battlefield and just walking into enemy deployment zone. No, all he wants to do is just conserve the 1 objective point that my opponent would otherwise gain if he is killed during the course of the game. So just hanging at the back, looking out for any kind of drop troopers, if Bakunin can even take them, can't quite remember. My opponent deploying his Überfall Commando team, represented by these little Velociraptor dudes who look really, really cool. I didn't quite get these guys rendered into TTS for you. Sorry about that. I might be able to do that once we do another run of Matt's models. You guys might recognize some of Matt's miniatures in the TTS 3D miniatures collection. They are mostly there, but we don't quite have everything just yet. Alright, he's nominating his Bakunin Riot Girl boarding shotgun 10-bot as the data tracker over here. She's camped in the midst of the link team. Right, so to begin with, my opponent opting not to use the impetuous move to leave the building, but he is awfully concerned about the possibility that I may have a Noctifer. He doesn't really want to move out and have all of his troops splashed by it and hit the camo marker and so forth. So this little blue bead here represents the central point of an Eclipse grenade, which he's trying to just splash down there with the team. Then what we have happening is, thanks to the Eclipse Grenade, we have Pywell moving out somewhere around this location here, and the thing is, it's going to be able to censor both of my hackers, and Pywell also has a repeater. Now, when I deployed first, I wasn't expecting Pywell, and also I'd forgotten that, Pywell was a possibility in Bakunin, and that Pywell itself is a repeater. Had I realized that and prepared for that, I think I would have deployed the Shroudeds somewhere else. So, first of all, really important to acknowledge that technically this is a mistake from me. It's a subtle mistake, but it's still a mistake. I have put my Shrouded Hackers in positions where both of them are really obvious sensor targets. He's going to go for those two particular camo markers first. That really wasn't great. If I had just left him some mines to discover or something like that and kept the Shrouded Hackers a bit further back, that would have been much better. As it stands, I'm actually finding myself in a bit of trouble here because he's likely to move up, censor them both very easily, then use the repeater to take them both out with killer hackers. So, acknowledging that I'm in a bad way here, I decided to take what I thought was the best play available to me and reveal one of my Shrouded Hackers as Pywell moves up and declare an Oblivion, which will isolate Pywell and also just damage the comms equipment. So I believe that Oblivion actually shuts down the repeater that Pywell has. And Pywell goes for the reset, but the thing is, if I win and he fails his BTS check, that means the repeater's shut down, the other Shrouded won't be discovered, and there's a good chance of me holding on to my Shrouded by the end of the turn and moving up to destroy Pywell to gain a lead. So there's a percentage chance that I actually come out here better off. That's just the nature of Infinity. It's very swingy, but if I was to replay this game or play a similar game in the future, I will be trying to keep my Shrouded Hackers further apart and a bit more respectful of sensors, so I believe we can learn something here. Now, unfortunately, what happens is that my Shrouded whiffs the roll, and his reset doesn't matter, and I've revealed myself. This also means that if he does now go for the sensor in a future order, he's had to reset instead of censoring in this particular order, but when he spends the next order on Pywell, I can continue hacking him if he decides to discover the other hacker. But of course now he doesn't need to. He can eliminate this guy first and then go for the sensor later. So sadly, what happens here is he's able to hack me. Now, I've made a mistake here. A subtle mistake. I've made my Shroudeds a bit vulnerable, but my opponent now makes a mistake of his own. He activates Zoe, and Zoe attempts to hit my Shrouded with a Spotlight through the repeater. Now you may be thinking, Spotlight's great because the Vertigo Zond here can just blow me up. If I'm trying to hack Zoe back through the repeater, I'm -3 due to the firewall. But the thing is, this is not the best move because by far the better move is to simply hack me with the Trinity from a 0 killer hacker. Zoe now risks just being isolated, which is not great. And it's really just, costing a bunch of orders to try and spotlight me. It does give me a chance to spotlight her back. And if I happen to win the face-to-face roll, she's spotlighted. I could, T-drone her in my own turn. That might even clip the Dactari. So my opponent attempting this over the course of a couple of orders and basically wasting orders here and only figuring out later that the 0 killer hacker would have been by far the better way to go. So he's made a mistake, which I think is a bit more of an egregious mistake than what I did with my deployment. So there is that. So now, my opponent eventually figuring out here, oh, I've got a 0 killer hacker on top of this building. It can use the repeater of Pywell down here. So 0 killer hacker able to use the repeater there to go up here and actually kill the Shrouded hacker, which it does quite easily with the help of active turn dice and the repeater, so my Shrouded dies. And of course, again, sadly, he is able to activate the Pywell again, go after my other Shrouded hacker. Again, I'm attempting to Oblivion him as he tries to censor me, but of course that fails as well. I didn't get the Oblivion off, and then he just reactivates his 0, kills my other Shrouded, and then recamos by the end of the turn. So a bad situation for me, losing both the Shrouded hackers in the first turn. That could have been avoided, but again, my opponent, had he got unlucky with the resets versus my hacking, I would have shut down Pywell. He could, potentially even have flubbed the Trinity attacks. His attacks with Zoe, were ill-advised. He could have actually been spotlighted by my Shrouded. So a bit of a misplay, really, but Nomad's got the result they wanted. Both my Shrouders dead, the 0 recamoed. Now there is an Eclipse Grenade on the field right here, so that's blocking any potential Noctifers, so now feels a bit safer moving out and spreading his Uberfall Commando team around. He also uses this, so you can see that number 4 marker there turns into a 0 with deployable repeater and mines. Does put the number 9 marker there, which is his mine deployed there. Then he recamos. And that is the end of the Nomad turn, which I'm not thrilled about, because two shrouded hackers are now dead, which puts me behind on points. You do get 2 objective points at the end of the game for killing more stuff than your opponent. But that's all he's really achieved. He hasn't threatened my backline. I will likely get 2 points back from him at the end of the game from the central objective. So it's a very winnable game for me. I just need to play my cards right. So impetuous moves, Tiger Creature moving around the left-hand flank. This allows me to do a maneuver here where spending my irregular order, so impetuous takes me around to here, irregular order takes me to there. Then I dodge from that point. The dodge moves me out into there. When you dodge, it's basically handled at the resolution step of the order. It doesn't provoke any new AROs, which means that the Tiger Creature can move out in front of his designated target without getting shot. And then spending a new order, I can Berserk, which allows me to use both short skills to rush straight into close combat with his designated target and make a close combat attack. That's the power of Berserk. You basically combine both short movement skills, you rush over there, you can still make an attack, and it becomes a normal roll rather than a face-to-face roll. This is a Tiger Creature with a double action close combat weapon, so it does indeed destroy his designated target, netting me a point, which is important, and leaves the Tiger in the midfield, which is fine because he's expendable. Similarly, my other Tiger Creature is able to do a similar move. It moves up beyond my deployment zone with the impetuous move. It then spends an irregular order, moving almost to line of sight of Pyrewell, but not quite. Then dodging on a 16, comes around the corner into line of sight. Then spending an irregular order, rushing into close combat with Pyrewell, and again destroying him. There is vision from the Riot Girl missile launcher as I'm moving in. She easily destroys the Tiger Creature, but happy to trade the Tiger Creature for Pyrewell because Pyrewell's holding the sensor, so that's a really important thing. So I've spent the impetuous order on each of these little hungry Tiger Creature guys, and the irregular, and 1 regular order on each. Which basically is the entire Group 2. The Malignos is not contributing an order because it's in hidden deployment, so that's Group 2 done. Group 1, we have a Shrouded Mine Layer who starts here, moves out around here. The plan is to move out to this panoply, grab something, lay a mine, and come back. And that's pretty much exactly what happens. There is no line of sight to this, so we've got the old school Shrouded, Seed Soldier type model from like 2nd edition showing up here, because I'm going to need a lot of these kind of models. Laying a mine, moving to the objective, grabbing +4 armor from the panoply, which I'm quite happy about. It's all about survivability in this type of mission, and you can see a couple of markers out in the midfield, which are mines. In fact, if I move the camera, all 3 of these markers, the 2 flat ones and the 3D one, they are all mines. And the idea is, I really want to make it harder for my opponent to move his data tracker at the end of the game to my deployment zone and net those 2 points. I want to try and avoid that. So, T-Drone now stands up. Reason for doing this is that his Riot Girl is not in a position to see me, and the Riot Girl will have to move a really long way to get to the fire lane where it can take on my missile launcher. The Riot Girl would have odds to beat me, but not great odds. It would be something like 16s on 2 dice versus 15s on 2 dice. I don't really think that's worth risking a Riot Girl missile launcher for, and he's not really packing any big HMGs in this list, so I'm feeling comfortable that I can now watch that fire lane through the middle of the table without any trouble. We then noticed that he'd left Zoe in a position where, after the Eclipse Grenade cleared, it's possible for me to actually stand up with my Nox HMG, move to here, and actually get a very small but very possible line of fire to Zoe's prone position in the building through the doorways. So that's what I did. Shot her at a long range. Zoe's just sitting there. You can see a bit of her base is sticking out through the door, goes through to the other side. The Nox Trooper rolls a 666, number of the beast in the Bible, if you know about that kind of thing. And Zoe flubs her dodge and fails some armor saves and is removed. So a big win from me there, taking out Zoe. That's a chunk of points that I'm going to need, and docks an order from his group there, so feeling really good about that. Of course, the Nox Trooper moving back into cover of the billboard as it does so with the first short skill before shooting. Cool. So that was a pretty good retaliatory turn. I've eliminated Zoe and Pyrewell, taken out the designated target for +1 point, and I've got a tiger creature still in his territory. He does manage to target the tiger creature. I can't remember how. I think there was a repeater or something nearby. And he does start shelling me with his missile bot. It does destroy the tiger creature eventually, but I don't really care. We then have his 0 mine layer appearing and just trying to discover this mine in the distance. And I want to pause the bat rep here and talk about some of the ideas behind the Shasvastii List once again. Because, again, we're talking about denial. When you're running a list like this, which has most of the bulk of the good stuff hidden behind markers, you're not really giving your opponent any easy targets to just shoot up with an HMG. And when they're having to spend their orders just trying to discover and shoot mines, when, you know, the game's in the balance and you've got to try and get shit done and try and get to the end of the deployment zone or the center of the table by the end of the game, if you can get your opponent doing little moves like this, which are insignificant, kind of waste orders, then you are on your way to victory. So I felt quite good about this. The 0 attempts to discover and fails. He moves his data tracker over to try and discover that same mine. I believe fails that as well. So just really doing nothing with his turn 2. When he gets to his turn 3, it'll be all or nothing, hopefully leaving me in a position to win. Still afraid of his Noctifer. He is trying to move around with his Uberfall commandos. I also have a T-drone like watching this lane over here, so he's going to try and dodge past it. But he does eventually get his Chimera and Putniks over to the left hand, from his point of view, objective to pick up some stuff from the Panoplies. So he's nabbing this and he's nabbing that. The Putnik originally gets +1 armor. Has another go at it, picks something else out from the Panoply, picks up a monofilament close combat weapon. I completely forget what the... Oh, no, I do remember. The Chimera picks up 8 force speed, which only speeds her up by 2 inches, but still very useful on a unit which is extremely good in close combat. Seeing nothing that she can get done is... so she's come from this direction here, decides to pick up the stuff from the Panoply, and then move out around here and just hide behind this, this tower. And again... I'm happy with this. My opponent is evening up the score on Panoplies that have been raided, but none of my stuff is really dying in this turn. It allows me to just keep defending and continue defending and setting up for blocking his data tracker to reach my deployment zone, and then in my final turn, picking off a couple more things to maybe get the points lead, and just grabbing that all-important objective at the end. So, such a big deal, not just for Finish Line, but for a lot of Corvus Belly missions as well, like... acquisition or even domination, just stuff like that, where it's just all about the end of game round, end of game overall. So here he is, just sitting up behind the tower in safety. So this is now Shasvastii turn 2. I'm moving out with just my humble, I believe it's 16 points for this guy, Seed Soldier 16 points. I noticed that they came with Panzerfaust, which is another reason why I've included them in this list. They help to contribute to the overall appearance and shell game of camo spam, where your opponent's not sure what's the mine, what's the Panzerfaust, what's the Caliban. So this guy now moving through, he's just ducking into the room here, and the idea here is threefold. If he pokes up to this this doorway here, there is actually a Dactari visible right up here in the corner. So if I'm able to fire my Panzerfaust at the Dactari, that may strip my opponent of an order and pick me up some points. I can secondarily raid the Panoply here and even up the score on Panoplies raided, and then move across here and fire my combi rifle at the position of his Chimera, which shuts down the possibility of the Chimera using her smoke later on. It gets me points and prevents his Chimera doing damage at the end. Now, unluckily, this Seed Soldier was not blessed with great dice, because he moves out, goes for the Panzerfaust, whiffs it, the Dactari manages to dodge away, saving her skin. He then moves up, goes for the Panoply. My opponent does have a camo marker there, but chooses not to reveal it. Remember, it's a 0, deployable repeater with a mine. So we do go for the Panoply. I believe the Seed Soldier picks up something like... I remember it not being that significant. I honestly can't remember what I actually got from there. It might have been a close combat weapon, but it wasn't particularly a big deal. But more importantly, I at least did get something from the Panoply. That means that I've got my Tiger Creature and my Seed Soldier picked up items, and he's got his Chimera and one Pupnik having picked up items, so we're even on that count. Now, moving in through here, it's 14s on 3 dice versus 16 on 1 dice for him throwing the Eclipse Grenade. I do have good odds to kill the Chimera here. Sadly, after a couple of volleys, he blocked my shot, rolled crits with his Smoke Grenade, and managed to survive, which, again, is annoying, because it means the Chimera is now more likely to kill the Seed Soldier rather than the other way around, but that's just my bad luck, as I often are, and I'm often unlucky is what I was trying to say. I am moving back here, but it's probably not going to save me, because he's got 8-4 speed on his Chimera, and he's got, like, the Eclipse Smoke to get his way in there. I did kill his Pupnik, though, so that's at least a Pupnik down, but this Seed Soldier's in a whole lot of trouble, and I don't believe it is able to go back into Camo State. If we just check the rules here really quickly, it has Camouflage 1 use, so that won't be possible. Alright, so Bakunin, final turn. Oh, before we get there, the other Seed Soldier, represented by this little guy, is moving out just to create that ARO with his Panzerfaust and a few different fire lanes there. Again, trying to make it harder and harder for my opponent to get his data tracker into my deployment zone. So, it is do or die time for Bakunin. This is the last turn for the Bakunin faction, and my opponent, after thinking about it for a moment, decides that he wants to risk it all and just run his data tracker right around the flank and get into my deployment zone. Now, this is not a terrible idea, because it means that he will nab 2 objective points. If he does it, he may kill some things on the way through. So if he nets 2 objective points from getting the guy into the finish line and getting army kills, that's 4 objective points. It'll be hard for me to surmount that. But if he fails, I might kill his data tracker and prevent him from getting into the zone, and it'll be an easy win. So let's look at how it goes down. He is zooming around the extreme flank here, so coming around here, that's the Link team's position. He's going to use this side building to just avoid my missile bot and eventually get all the way around the flank here. He knows that there's a mine there, so he does move up and attempts to dodge the mine. My opponent has been extremely lucky with his Chimera and his Dactari and his hacking and so forth and his resets, but he finally encounters a bit of luck here, bad luck here, where he fails to dodge and fails the armor save for the boarding shotgun and takes a wound. Not the end of the world, but it does mean it's going to be a little bit easier for me to pick him off before he reaches my line and secure that +1 point for killing his data tracker. But let it be said, this is an unlucky moment for the Riot Girl, to be sure. Let's be clear about that. My +4 armor Shrouded Mine Layer here does succeed in dodging and changing face, which is great. And here comes the real pivotal play. My opponent sees that I have an HMG Nox Trooper, which is able to see the edge of the table around here, and will get a couple of shots off with a fully linked HMG if he comes around there. This is the position of the Riot Girl. Sorry about the blurry photo. There is a Shrouded Mine Layer here. My opponent, before engaging the Shrouded, just comes up to the cover of this box and has a go at long range with a boarding shotgun, but it is within 16, so he will need, so he's Blister Skill 13, -3 for cover, and -0 for range, because it's between 8 and 16. So my opponent, if he's Blister Skill 13, -3 for cover, will be on 10s, on 2 dice. My Nox Trooper is Blister Skill 11, +3 for the Link team, -3 for cover, and we're at 0 range band for the HMG. So that will be 11s. On 2 dice. The Bakunin Riot Girl has 1 wound left. So you can see here that there's a pretty good chance that nothing will happen, because we might either both whiff or pass armor saves. If one of us wins the face-to-face roll, it's slightly more likely for me to win it, and then it's the Bakunin Riot Girl taking an armor save against an HMG with +3 armor and cover. I think she's got +3 armor. So this is a risk. It's more likely for me to win this face roll and kill the Riot Girl than it is for the Riot Girl to kill the Nox Trooper. But, again, my opponent getting lucky, as he generally has during this game, but, you know, he was unlikely to lose the wound against the mine, so it's sort of swinging back and forth. but still my opponent does succeed here. Gets the shotgun through. I fail my armor save on the first volley, which is important because he's only got a couple of orders left, like 3 orders left, I think. So very crucial and decisive and clutch moment for him to take down this Nox HMG. He then goes in for this Shrouded, who is backed up by +4 armor, which is nice. This is a much better situation for the Riot Girl because we start on BS13, it's +6 for short range, -3 for camouflage, so it's 13s on 2 dice, and I only have 1 dice. I'm +3 range, -3 cover. Sorry, it's not 13s on 2 dice, it's actually 16s on 2 dice because the Riot Girl... Let me just rub this out. Let's just go through this again. So the Riot Girl, let's not forget, has MSV1. So BS13 +6 is 19s on 2 dice. And then the Shrouded Mine Layer is on 11s with 1 dice. So you can see here that the chances of getting that boarding shotgun hit through are very, very good. The chances of killing him, despite the +4 armor, also very good because AP is going to drop me down to +2. It is possible, but not unlikely, that I will, for example, counter one of his hits and pass the armor save or something like that. It's also possible that he'll only do 1 armor save, then I'll regen the Shrouded later in the turn to get some points back. But what actually happens in this encounter is that my opponent gets horribly unlucky, and I roll like a 10 and he rolls 2 7s, and then he flubs the armor save, which seals the game instantly. Like, that is a loss for Bakunin right there, and that's basically game-ending bad luck. And I want to acknowledge that my opponent doesn't, deserve this in a vacuum. This is very unlikely to happen. But over the course of the game, some things did go well for him. He managed to not get oblivioned by the first Shrouded or the second Shrouded when Pyrewell was out there. He didn't flub any of his rolls for Zoe trying to spotlight against the enemy spotlight. The 0 did what it needed to with the Trinity. All of that worked perfectly like clockwork. He also dodged away with his Daktari against my Panzerfaust. His Chimera survived all the combi rifle shots from the Seed Soldier. So he has had a lot of lucky rolls. He's also beaten my Nox HMG with this Bakunin Riot Girl here. But when it came to the most clutch moment here, did flub it and died. So that's basically it. I will talk in a moment about what would have happened if the Riot Girl had succeeded like we expected to and killed the Shrouded. But what happens here is that the Chimera, to finish the game, moves over to go after the Seed Soldier. Again, I can shoot her, she can shoot back at me, but the Chimera, perpetually lucky, nothing goes wrong, comes over and just destroys the Seed Soldier very easily in close combat, and that is that. A couple of extra moves here that don't really matter. My opponent just repositioning, nothing he can really do, because when it becomes my turn, the Speculo Killer moves out, avoids enemy fire thanks to Impersonation State, and then just sets up next to the objective. We're able to break out of Marker State by laying a mine, because it's a mine layer Speculo, and that nets me the 2 objective points at the end of the game. So, just moving to try and take out the Chimera, but yeah, in fact, I believe my other Seed Soldier was able to shoot down the Chimera in the building at the end, who'd gotten lucky. Well, not lucky, but, well, he did get lucky against my other Seed Soldier, so that was the final thing here. And, of course, revealing my Malignos so that the points aren't wasted. You have to have your model on the table at the end for the points to count, and that basically ends the game. So, with finish line points scoring, let's do a tally. So if I put S here for Shasvastii and B for Bakunin, Shasvastii gets 2 points for having the objective at the end. Bakunin get nothing for that. After we added up this tally of stuff killed, Bakunin gets 2 points for that, even though the Riot Girl died. It's just because I've lost a bunch of other things. I've lost a Seed Soldier and 2 Shrouded Hackers, both Tiger Creatures, the Nox HMG, and that was what managed to tip it. So 2 points each. Designated target, I've shot his one or eaten it with a Tiger Creature. He didn't get my one. Alright, so that's what sort of puts me over the edge, and then I get an additional 2 points for capturing... Sorry, I don't get 2 additional points. So that's for the central objective, that's for the army kills, that's for the designated target. I get 1 point for for killing his data tracker, he didn't get a point for killing my data tracker. So that's a 4 points to 2. I know there's another point floating around in there somewhere. Oh, the panoplies. I believe we were tied on that. So I got 2 from the panoplies. He got 2 from the panoplies. So I believe that was a 4-2. What my opponent was kind of hoping to do near the end there was to, obviously, if we just move back. So if he destroys this this Shrouded as he was meant to and continues walking around towards my line, what he might have been able to do after killing this Nox and the Shrouded here, if he had gone there, he would have gained 2 points for moving into the zone and then potentially killed my data tracker, which was also the Lieutenant, would have put me into Lost Lieutenant, and he would have won for sure if he had managed to get there. For me to prevent that, I actually had the Specular Killer over there with the combi rifle. That would have allowed me to shoot at him. It would have been a free shot if he had chosen to continue moving and ignore it, and he only had 1 wound left, so there's a good chance I would have killed him. And if he'd shot back at me, he wouldn't have had the orders he'd needed to come around the back and destroy the Nox Lieutenant and data tracker. So that's a really important point. Even if he had moved into my zone and gained that 2 additional points, it might well have ended up a draw, because I could have easily shot his Riot Girl to death. Once she just ended it up in my turn, I could have moved something else over and killed her quite easily. There's another point that I want to raise towards the end of this game, and that's that after we calculated how many points had died on either side, I pointed out that he actually had a model not on the table yet. It was a Prowler, which my opponent neglected to even reveal. It was hiding somewhere obscure, and technically, by not revealing that Prowler in the same way that I revealed my Malignos, I would have actually gained 2 points for killing more stuff, not the other way around, because my opponent neglected to simply reveal his guy. He could have, just simply by spinning the order, but he forgot to. I normally, don't like to win on stuff like that. If it was a really tight tournament game, I might have held my ground and said, look, no, actually, you forgot to do that. I win on points. But for the purposes of this bat rep and this commentary, I'm going to assume that he got more points killed at the end of the game. It was tight, like 10 points was in it, considering that we're going to count the Prowler in his favor. Still, it was a close game. I avoided a draw, got a win instead, thanks to that little bit of clutch good luck from the Shrouded. But I felt like coming into this, my game plan and my play was a little bit better. My understanding of what to do was a little bit better, and that had showed. I also have some hope for this archetype of lots of camo markers. On TTS, I've been practicing quite a bit with lists which only have camo markers, just 10 orders. That's a little bit difficult but unwieldy. What I'm leaning towards now is lists which have some cheerleaders and some backup in non-marker state, but then a whole lot of important stuff that's in markers. It really defends against this whole archetype of sending pitches out and hacking enemy troops and firing at you with a T-drone, or smart missile bot, I should say. So that has been working well for me so far, but still there's some more development and more playtesting and planning to go. This list has weaknesses, and hopefully I can get better at leveraging the strengths and minimizing those weaknesses in future games. So stay tuned, keep sticking around for these bat reps. I know you guys enjoy them, and I'll be seeing you again soon.